Gordon was amazing.
Hello, everybody. I'm Roger Gildersleeve. I'm Gordon's brother. Thank you all for coming, and thanks to this awesome band. And I have been describing myself as Gordon's stodgy older brother, which lucky in some ways, unlucky in others, I guess. You all know Gordon in some ways better than I do, and it's been just a great treasure for me to get to know many of you and be here in his place and learn things about him that I didn't know, and kind of reunite with my brother from childhood. This has been the last few months have just been amazing, and you all just amazing people he knows and loves and loved him back, even though he was sometimes really hard to love, but he was impossible not to. He was incandescent is the word that keeps coming to mind for me. So I'm hearing stories about things I never knew, and it's just been, the last 6 months have been quite a saga for me. So thank you all for being here. I've gotten to know many of you quite well and others barely at all, but thank you. Especially thanks, Kip, for hosting this place, and all of you who help make Gordon's closure, the close of his life, full of meaning and love and light. Just a great gift to him. Thank you all. And so after the band wraps up, I don't know if other folks want to come up and tell stories or say some words. I would love to hear anything anybody has to say. So I'll pass the mic on.
Third pie. Would you read that poem?
I'll sure read that poem. Right now?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, some of y'all might know me as a local outsider artist, poet. And I'm kind of obsessed with death and sex and art, and that's what, like, really Gordy was, he was tapping in, you know? So this is what I wrote for him. For Gordon. You should paint flowers while you have the coffee shakes, or withdrawals from liquor, when you are obsessed with death and frailty. Shh. The unsteady stems, the unsteady hand, the unsteady mind. Artist makes things move. It's never good enough for us, though. We have harnessed the breeze, the startled deer, and the dainty spring blooms. The seasons pick us up and set us down. You know that feeling you get when you see a hummingbird and internalize that too fast beating heart in your gut? That unnerving hovering, collapsing in a heap. We fertilize the earth. Our hammer, our brush, our pen, raised to strike an obituary to wavy lines.
But I'm not shy, so maybe if I tell one, some other people will come up. Because I didn't know Gordon real well. Probably, I would guess, less than most of you. But about 30 years ago, Gordon had a storage space where he did his welding and his artwork on Manchester Street. And I and my band rented the storage space adjacent to his. And we went down there every single day where I was in probably 21 years old. And we went down there every single day and rehearsed. And every day after we got done rehearsing, we'd go hang out with Gordon. And, you know, we had some things in common with Gordon. We enjoyed some of the same stuff. But he didn't like our music at all. I think he would wear, you know, have a Walkman or whatever we had back in those days and play the Ramones while we played our grunge music. But we really liked him, and I thought he was a really interesting person. I'd never met anybody like him, and what struck me about him was how nice he was, despite being such a unique person. And I remember I drove a 1971 Volkswagen Super Beetle, and the clutch had broken, and it was made out of metal, and I couldn't drive it, and I was just mentioning it to him, that they were going to charge me like $2,000 in 1993. I mean, like, how am I going to fix that? What am I going to do? Gordon said, I'll fix it for you. And he welded my clutch back together. And it was stronger than it ever was. I never had it fixed again. And it just, you know, it was just really, it just says, that's just who he was. You know, he's like a generous, cool, interesting guy. And years later, 26 years later, you know, I reconnected with him. I bought some artwork from him, and I feel really lucky that I got to reconnect with him, because I hadn't really, maybe I bumped into him once or twice, but I never really hung out with him at all for like all these years, or a couple decades, and then got to see him again just a couple years ago. And I'm real proud to have some of his artwork in my garden now, a couple metal cranes. And I hung out with him for an afternoon at his house. He showed me all his stuff and showed me what he was working on with the COVID series, and he's real proud of it. And he was just a great guy. And I think you all being here is a testament to what a great guy he was. And that's all I have to say. But if you got a drink in your hand, raise it to Gordon. Here it is.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I've got too many Gordon stories, and are there children around? But one, I've got a few. I'm just going to tell a couple of short ones. One was when I lived out at Boone Creek, and Gordon used to just show up, which was so lovely and wonderful. And he and I would go walking down to the creek and pick up rocks. We would always, and then of course he would draw on them or carve into them and stuff. But we would hang out at the house. And I was dating this Irishman at the time, who was a teetotaler, and he didn't drink at all. And I love Jameson. And so every time that gentleman would come to see me, he would bring me a bottle of Jameson. So Gordon comes out one night or one afternoon, and he opens my freezer, and there were like 4 bottles of Jameson in the fridge. And I mean, Gordon and I, we liked to party, and we loved to party together. But he opens my freezer, and he immediately just got this look of like, terror on his face. And he said, "Robin, do we need to talk? Are you okay?" And he was worried about me, thinking that I was drinking all this Jameson, and I was like, no. And I told him the story and everything. And he was like, "Huh." And then we started drinking it. Well, of course. Of course we did. But it was just one of those fluky things where he was just, such a sweetheart. And he was like a brother to me. I loved him from the moment I met him. I can still remember the first time I met him. It was at his house when he was having a party, and Jenny Banks introduced me to him. And I was heartsick over this other fella. I was heartbroken and just upset. And Jenny's like, "Robin, he's really cute." And then Gordon and I just hit it off as like brother and sister from the moment we met. But he had long hair, and he was just, rocking it out and having a big time. But one of my funniest stories was at Mary's house. We were partying at Mary Houlihan's, and I was a big swing dancer back in the day. So I followed all these bands and went, swing dancing everywhere. And Gordon kept saying, "I want to swing. I want to swing." And then he kept saying, "I want to flip you. I want to flip you." And I kept telling him, I'm like, "Okay, but we've got to practice in the pool first." He was living with Kelly Gleason at the time. And I said, "We'll practice at Kelly's before we do it." But one night we got drunk as shit at Mary's. And we're in that long kitchen, and we're swinging. The music's playing. I think it was probably Louis Prima, because he loved to dance to Louis Prima. But we were dancing, and all of a sudden, Gordon picked me up and tried to flip me and dropped me on my head. Completely, dunked. So I am in the doorway between the living room and the kitchen, and I'm contorted in the doorway, and I can't get up because I'm stuck. So rather than helping me up, Gordon stands over me and starts yelling to everybody, "Oh my God, I broke Robin! I broke Robin!" And he just leaves me there, and I'm like, and I'm rolling. I mean, it was funny. I wasn't injured, hallelujah. I was probably too drunk to, I was very flexible. But it was just one of the funniest moments ever. I've had so many fun moments with him. There are just too many to count. But that was it. That was such a joy that night, just him picking me up and flipping me. And we did practice at Kelly's, and we did manage we nailed it in the pool. Okay. No more dropping Robin and breaking Robin. But he was a blessing in my life. He was there when Ollie was born. He was one of the first people that came to see me at the hospital. He took one of my favorite pictures of my son. It was the first picture of Ollie on this earth. And it was the sweetest little picture of Ollie with his hands like this and newborn, pudgy face. And he was smiling. And I cherish that picture so much. And I cherish the fact that Gordon took it. And I cherish every moment that I had with him. And I will truly miss him, as I know we all will.
But I just said, remember the word. The word. That's the word.
Arla, are you going to tell a story?
I don't know if I should tell it.
Tell it. I want to hear it. Go. Now you got to tell it, girl.
What you got, Cindy?
Well, I made it here today. So I thought I would tell the story. I kind of put it on Facebook. Hello, everybody. I made it. Scott brought me. So one Saturday morning or Sunday morning, Johnny McGee had this weird television that you could use the clicker, and you could dial people on the telephone. So it had this was before our cell phones, right? It must have had a place where you could put your landline connection in it, and you could literally dial on the clicker a telephone and call through this TV. And so I think Johnny thought it was funny if we just called Gordon that one morning, Saturday morning. It was kind of like maybe spring. It was chilly in the morning. And so we called Gordon, and Gordon's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And yeah, I'm laying in bed, and it's kind of cold. What y'all doing? And we were just like, "Oh, we've got this TV, and we're calling you through the TV, man." He's like, "What? No way! You're kidding! That's crazy, man! What's going on? Can you see me?" We're like, "Yeah." And we're like, I don't know, maybe I have ESP, I'm not sure. But I just thought, "I can see your hat." And he's like, "What? No way! Yeah, I have a hat on! What? You can see me!" He had one of those, just a hat on, like you would be cold in bed and whatever. And he was like freaking out, like, "What? That's crazy, man! What? And Johnny and I were just rolling, laughing, whatever. It was just the greatest, Gordon experience. Because Gordon was just the ultimate adult child. I mean, he just really was, the spirit of that. And that's my story. So
So I've got a story from probably about that same time. I'm Molly. I know some of you, and I don't know others, but so there is a crew of us here that were part of the art department at UK in the early 90s, and that's when Gordon was doing all sorts of crazy, just amazing performances. And I remember early on entering the art department, and I think all of us came across Gordon really swiftly. He maybe was the person that greeted everybody that was coming in, thinking about being a part of this crazy, amazing community. And I'm looking at these faces. I feel we were all just so lucky to be in that space and time in the Reynolds Building. I don't think anything like that exists anymore, and it probably shouldn't. Most of it is very incorrect and inappropriate and amazing and wonderful and juicy. And I think we loved each other and hated each other and loved each other even more and made such amazing work and learned and grew. My English is going out the... Anyway, early on in the early 90s, you meet Gordon, and he's working and he's doing all these things. And then there's all these parties around town, And so I lived on Maxwell Street, which probably many of us did. And then there's Grosvenor, and there were some houses that were kind of famous for some really big parties. And I think one night, it may have been the Maxwell house. I think it was. Gordon's, whatever band he was a part of at that time was playing. It was when he had the long hair. And Roger, I told you the story when we first talked. And this, I love this image, and I will always hold on to it. But Gordon was like on a fire escape, with an electric guitar, and, long stringy hair, and he was playing on this fire escape, and there's all these, I'm going to say kids because that's what it felt like at the time. There's all these people down on the ground just chanting, Gordon, Gordon, Gordon. And he was playing and like just being adored in the way that he is. But it was just all playing out, and I was kind of standing to the side watching all this go down. And then at one point, he grabs his beer, and he takes a big swig of the beer, and they're chanting his name, Gordon, Gordon, and he takes a big swig, and he spits his beer onto the masses below him. And you would have thought they had been anointed with divine light, because it wasn't gross at all. Everybody felt like they had been a part of something very special. And I will never forget that as long as I live. It just sort of, if I have any image of Gordon, which I know I have many of them, as we all do, that is at the pinnacle of it. So I will leave you with that as far as I'm concerned.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
That's a great one.
Tell us about the worm.
Carla, worm! Carla Brown! You're being called to the front of the room. Worm, Carla! This is really cool. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, me in front of a microphone is absolutely terrifying.
But you want to hear the story of the worm?
Well, first of all, I have to say that
Get closer to the mic.
first
Turn the mic up.
There you go.
First of all, now I'm a rock star.
There you are.
First of all, I have to say that Gordon, from what I knew of him and so many friends, was a very dear, sweet, kind soul who also had his wild, crazy moments, like many of us do. A real human being, gentle, kind, outrageous, passionate, full of life, sad of life, all the things. When I opened my shop on Dewey Street, he would come by every now and then when I was sitting at the table, working enormous amount of hours, and just stop by and be like, hey, you know what, you're doing a good thing here. It's really cool. It's really cool. Things like that. But anyway, I'm getting to the worm story.
Great. That's all right.
He was very accepting of many people, and I know that sometimes he could wear a lot of friends thin with long phone calls because he loved to talk on the phone. If you were going to be on the end of a phone conversation, it was going to be a 4-hour conversation. And that could be lovely sometimes, and oftentimes in this busy, crazy world, we don't have the time to do that. But anyway, I'm still not to the worm story. Louis Prima. That man loved Louis Prima. I remember often going into his house, his living room, and that would be on. And no matter how sad he might be or how happy he might be, Louis Prima would be playing. And I didn't know that much about Louis Prima, but I was ultimately, after that, totally about it. Let's see. So the worm story. So, sometimes you get a phone call from Gordon, and it would be like, I'm frustrated right here, or I'm dealing with this RPs, or this person, or whatever, and that and the other, and you'd worry, you'd try to be there for him, whatever, he'd be there for you the same way.
But there was one time in particular that I was really worried with a friend of mine. And he was in a situation at home. It was not good. He was calling and he was like, this is not a good situation. I don't think I can deal with this. Da 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 da. So I'm like, okay, let's get the squad. Who's gonna go over there? Like, we gotta go now. It's in Kenwick. Who's gonna go get him? Who's gonna go over there? Everybody was just, splattered in every different direction. Nobody was. So finally, we get people together, and it's like, okay, let's go. Let's save the situation. Go there. Not there. I'm like, okay, well, this just took like 3 hours out of my life of worry, major worry and stress. Realized that he was actually at what it is now the fish tank. It was something else then. Not the Best Friends Bar. Finally got the note that he was there, went there, and there was a circle crowd in the middle of the floor. And there is Gordon doing the worm. Perfectly. And I don't know, I'm sure many of you all here know what the worm is. It takes a lot of strength. Oh, I can't do it. It takes a lot of strength to do the worm and actually get it off of the floor. I mean, it's pretty much supernatural if you can get it off the floor. But he was doing that. Like, all the woes were just gone, and then people were loving it, and I was mad. And I was like, you fucking asshole! I've been worrying for 3 hours! What the fuck is going on? It's like, it's so good to see you. Let me cry, Roscoe. Take me home. Anyway, that could have been told much better, but I have a very fear of public speaking. It's perfect. But Gordon was like the sweet essence of kindness and understanding of anyone. If you needed him, he would be the ear, always. He would definitely make it a 4-hour conversation on the phone. But and he could also, no, we all know. I love him and miss him, and I'm so glad that at the end of his life of being in this plane, that we all got to kind of be there for him. I'm so glad that he let us all in that, because I think that's so important. All of you people are good people. Sorry. I don't know. He's a good man. He was a good man. He is a good man.
Hello, everybody. I'm David. I met Gordon probably in 1989 I was a graduate student at the University of Kentucky, and he was an undergraduate student. And Gordon, my memories of that time are not real specific, but I know that I made an impression on Gordon because he would always remind me of how he felt that I gave him the time, and the help that he needed when other people would want to disregard him or something, and for that, I think he loved me and always appreciated my friendship. But so I moved away like 31 years ago from Lexington, and but I've been in touch with Gordon over the years, often by phone. And when Carla was talking about the phone calls, it's like I've been on the other end of some phone calls with Gordon, and a lot of times it was about the heartache and pain of a relationship, right, that was going sideways or whatever, and lots of those. And one of my thoughts about those type of phone calls were I would always try to ask Gordon about, would you try to become a friend with a woman before you like jump in the sack with her, and maybe things would turn out better. But he was like, he couldn't take that advice. And so, he'd get through one relationship and he'd be in between relationships. And then I'd get a call from him one time and he'd be like, "Yo, I met this girl." And I'm like, "Oh, Gordon." And it was a lot of that. But also, like, I've got some messages on my phone still. I've had this phone since 2017, and I've got maybe a dozen messages that were left on my phone because Gordon also liked to call at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've got a family and I've got a job and I have to be in bed, right? So I leave my phone on the kitchen counter plugged into the charger with the ringer off, you know. So I've got some messages, and they often start off with a how you doing, man? You know, and then he'd go on this kind of a rant or whatever. And one of my favorite messages, he's talking about I need to come and visit, you know, so we need to go on a road trip, you know, and I have a memory of it, and when I listen to it, it doesn't quite line up with my memory, but it's kind of like, we need to rent a car or a van, and we're going to drive across country, he says, because I don't want to ruin my car. I really like my car. And we should like drive, and we should go, you know, see and do all these things. And then when we get to California, we're just going to drive it into the ocean, you know. And it's like, what a poetic image, you know, to just drive all the way to the end of the country and then just right into the ocean, you know, and then what, you know, it's like just trash that car and, you know, like a classic road trip. I'm married to a woman who's a good Catholic girl, and, you know, she had heard me speaking with Gordon and stuff, you know, and she'd hear him say, man, I'm going to come and visit you guys. I'm like, okay. And she's like going, oh shit, is he really going to come and visit us? And I'm like, no, probably not, you know, because he would say that a lot. I'm going to come and visit, you know, and Gordon, you know, if you know Gordon, you all know Gordon, and he could be unpredictable, you know, and a lot of fun and a lot of spirit. But yeah, unpredictable. We'll just leave it at that. And, but, you know, I was able to come and visit him several times. I'm usually on my way to or from Virginia. I grew up in Virginia and live in Indiana, and, you know, try to make yearly visits back home. And so I've got some memories of spending some time with Gordon in his house on Preston. And, you know, he really loved that place and the garden and his figs. You know, I like growing figs, and he liked growing figs. And so we had conversations about growing figs and peppers and vegetables. And he had this little tub out in the backyard, and of course, his studio. He had an amazing setup. And so one thing I admired about Gordon, or the thing I guess I admired most about Gordon, is he had the courage, you know, to pursue a career as an artist, you know, and to do it, you know. And I don't have the courage, you know, to do that. I became a parent right out of graduate school, and I had to get a job, and I still have a job, and I'm still a parent for some reason. And, you know, you know.
No, I can't.
But anyways, I admired his courage and, you know, the work that he did. And I've seen, you know, a lot of his pictures, and I know he's proud of his work. And it was a struggle, you know, but he did it. And you know, that it's an amazing thing. I admire anyone who can make a career as an artist. Honestly, it's tough, you know. And that's about all I got. Thanks.
Gordon, I loved you very much.
I just wish I loved that.